Philando Castle was known as Mr. Phil by the kids of the Montessori school where he worked and who loved him before he was shot dead in cold blood by a white police officer for the crime of carrying a licensed firearm while black. Or Philando Castle was an armed robbery suspect shot dead while trying to draw his pistol on Hispanic police officer Geronimo Yanez. It's been almost a week after Castle's girlfriend Diamond Reynolds released that shocking Facebook video of Castle's death, and we still don't know the whole story. This, After Dallas, a 3-part right angle special. Now, we're going to have a hard time finding the right angle for you on this one, but we're going to try. I'm Steve Green with Bill Whittle and Scott Ott. And gents, my first reaction to Diamond Reynolds' video was to marvel at just how cool and collected she was as her boyfriend literally lay dying in front of her and her child apparently ripped from her car by police as a screaming police officer kept a gun leveled at her and her dying boyfriend. But within a day, there were reports that Castle had been pulled over 52 times for various traffic violations and that he didn't have a concealed carry license after all, and that he and Reynolds were suspects in an armed robbery. And although we saw video of the aftermath of the shooting, we still haven't seen video of what happened before the shooting. Now, Bill, there's been a huge rush to judgment here on all sides. You have Yanez, that's a police officer. His lawyer is blaming the presence of a gun, not the police officer's gun, but Castle's gun. Black Lives Matter blames Yanez or cops in general. Blue Lives Matter blames Castle. The NRA hasn't said anything yet. Barack Obama blames racism. I could just go on and on and on. There are so many sides to this. So, Bill, where's the dash cam footage? Where is the body cam video? Couldn't the St. Anthony's Police Department clear this up if they wanted to?
Well, certainly from a couple of the examples that we've seen lately, I'm beginning to become more and more and more in favor of these body cams. In fact, I think we're going to rapidly find the point where we just can't imagine how we did law enforcement without them. One of the things, I don't know much about this case, and so I can't comment specifically on the case because unlike the president, I don't have any information. So therefore, my opinion has no real bearing because it would just be a statement of principles to gain some sort of political advantage. But we can speak in some generalities, I think. One of them is that it seems to me that in all of the cases that we've been handed by Black Lives Matter in terms of assassination of the police, Michael Ferguson and the guy in New York who was choked out, and then the guy in the ambulance who died, and so on. The story starts out as outrageous murder on the part of the police department, and very rapidly, all of the evidence in every one of these cases, the more evidence we get, the more exculpatory it becomes, the more it begins to make it look like more of a gray area. And in some of these cases, you make it look like, well, the police officer had no choice. So we really do need to know what we can know, and body cameras really help us with that. I think that's the first point. The second point is that we do, in fact, have some bad cops out there. And I mentioned in one of our other segments that I've seen video of a policeman simply harassing people until they got up and walked away. And when they got up and walked away, he basically say you're fleeing the scene, you know. So these cops have to be weeded out, and cops have to help us weed out the bad cops. I know the Brotherhood, and I'm not going to pretend to say I know what it's like inside the Blue Brotherhood, but I'm just telling you as somebody who's generally a law enforcement supporter from the outside, if the police code is protecting bad policemen, it's putting your lives at risk and your family's lives of losing a loved one. If there are bad cops out there, we need to get them off the street because bad cops are the reason for all of this nonsense. And the final thing I'll just say is this. We have to understand how traumatic, how dangerous, and how unpredictable this job is, and never lose track of the fact that we're just talking about a guy or a woman, just the same person who we could be sitting next to in a restaurant, who happens to be wearing a blue suit with a little piece of silver on the front. These are not superhuman people. They're as afraid as everybody else. We like to think that they're trained, and they certainly are. And so to this end, the most interesting thing I've seen was, I think it was the Phoenix Police Department, in the wake of this Dallas catastrophe, took a Black Lives Matter activist and gave him the short course on police training. They gave him a cap gun, and they told him, all right, go and get that car's driver's license. They gave him a cap gun and said, go ahead and break up this fight. And in any number of cases, these people in this mock scenario pulled a gun out of nowhere and just bam, 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 bam. And the Black Lives Matter activist, to his undying credit, I think, said, I had not realized how explosive and unpredictable the situation can be, and therefore how adrenalized you are when you call on a license plate and you find out the guy's been, pulled over 52 times. People make mistakes, and this is it. I think this is it in a nutshell. We have to be able to use whatever evidence there is to figure out what is an honest mistake that's performed in the line of duty, where it is simply a coin toss and the officers genuinely believe they're in threat of their own lives, versus cases that we have seen where somebody is 15 or 20 feet away and maybe they're approaching an officer with just fists and he's just shot dead. I think that's definitely excessive use of force. I tend to come down on the side of law enforcement as a general rule.
Well, Bill, unless we get body cam video, and I kind of doubt the officer was wearing a body cam, or the dash cam video is more revealing than I think, I might still be able to clear this up for you a little bit. I promised our viewers we'd find the right angle on this story, and we might have it. No robbery charges have been filed against Reynolds, and it appears as though she and Castle were pulled over because of mistaken identity, at least according to police scanner audio. Castle's death has been ruled a homicide. That is a homicide, and Yanez has been ID'd as the shooter. No one outside the fringes of the internet has any doubt that Castle was indeed licensed to carry a concealed firearm, and we have no indication, as of yet anyway, that Castle was doing anything other than attempting to comply with conflicting police orders to show his ID and to keep his hands on the wheel. So, Scott, it's said the truth will out, but in this case, the craziness that continues to swirl around this, hasn't the internet become the place where bad ideas go to just live on and on and on?
Well, the problem with this whole situation, as far as us being able to divine any truth from it, is the problem that the president has taken the lead in fomenting, which is, let's comment first, find out what happened later. And it just completely it's perfect for a guy who thinks the rule of law is whatever I say it is today, but it completely violates the basic principle of a man is innocent until proven guilty. And by proven guilty, that means in a court of law, usually before a jury of his peers or before a judge that's elected by the people or chosen by the people. And so to leap into this situation and say, I have a fragment of evidence that is actually, in this case, an after-the-fact video of some highly interested party who is narrating and describing everything that happened. Therefore, I'm going to make the snap judgment. If a guy's bleeding out, obviously the poor guy got shot, and so somebody shot him, and therefore whoever shot him is the bad guy. And I think, we see so many of these where people are willing to make a snap judgment in a moment, not based on what they see, but based on what they already believed. And when the argument first springs up, there are a bunch of people who instinctively defend the police. There are a bunch of people who instinctively attack the police and defend this completely random person who wound up in this situation you've never heard of before. All of a sudden, that person has credibility. And this woman who is doing this really eerie, creepy, deadpan video. I mean, I've never seen anything like that in my life. If one of my loved ones was sitting next to me in the car bleeding out, I could not dispassionately narrate it, but maybe that's what happens in the selfie generation. So I guess my plea in all of this to everybody is to say, if we're to have a legal system in this country, equal justice under law, then the legal system has to be allowed to play out. And you can't make your decision when you get a piece of the evidence and then say, oh, I know everything that happened. Keep in mind that before all this, before everybody was being videoed by, in every action they took, juries would often spend weeks agonizing over whether or not somebody did something when they had 2 or 3 witnesses who said it happened. So you've got to give the process a chance to take place. And I think if we're going to be conservatives, libertarians, freedom lovers, liberty lovers, we have to stand up for the rule of law, for equal justice under law, and for the principle that a man is innocent until proven guilty.
Yes, sir.
And just to reiterate a point I've made earlier, with that understanding and that respect for law enforcement in a free society, their behavior has to be held accountable when they transgress the line. I'm ready to give them a lot of latitude on that line. I really am. I understand how traumatic it can be and how emotional it can be. But in cases where it is, in fact, cold-blooded murder, then these people need to be prosecuted hard. They need to be made examples of. Because if we don't trust the law, then we have the situation we have today.
Well, and I would agree with Bill, because isn't that just what we do to members of Congress, senators, former secretaries of state? We bring down the hammer because of the heightened level of responsibility. You're right, Bill. You're right.
No, you're both right. Unfortunately, I wish Bill were the only one who were right on that particular Scott. Guys, I hate this case. I really do. But we have to talk about it because I think it's a perfect reflection of race relations in this age of Obama and of the political and cultural pathologies we have here in the 21st century America. For all of her grace, and Scott, I totally disagree with you on Reynolds' reaction. I had a reader tell me, "Wow, she would make a great trauma nurse with her ability to stay calm in a bad situation." So I was impressed by her grace immediately after the shooting. But a few days later, she went on ABC News to urge violent protests against the police, violence. And then the social media reaction probably helped to inspire Mika Johnson to ambush and kill 5 cops in Dallas. The left is using the case to urge more gun control, so I don't know, police won't be tempted to murder law-abiding citizens. Most personally disappointing, a few readers of mine are indulging in disgusting racist conspiracy theories and urging me and my other readers to do the same. But worst of all, a decent man, by all accounts a decent man, an imperfect man like all of us, is dead. And almost certainly for no good reason, and his death is being used to benefit the very worst in our society on both the left and the right. So it's stories like this one, they make me feel like this whole country is just at the edge of an abyss, and I don't know whether we're going to turn back, all of us turn back, or if we're going to push each other in. So please, everyone, take a deep breath and step back. Can we do that, please? All right. That's The Right Angle on Philando Castle, made possible by the paying members at BillWhittle.com. Thanks for watching.